Welcome to the Pause Awards show, where we invite past winners and future judges to talk about their journeys, inspirations, and lessons learned in their professional careers and beyond. My name is George Hedden, and I'm a founder of Pause Fest and Pause Awards. Pause Awards are celebrating business achievements of impactful businesses that ultimately go to build better ecosystems. And today, I'm speaking with our awards judge. I'm talking to Jules, Brooke, founder at She's the Boss and Handle Your Own PR. Hi, Jules. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you, George? Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, good. I'm great. I love the weather today being again sunny and bright. And I mean, t-shirt today, feeling it like it's
Well,
all.
yes, but it is Melbourne, so we've had two big storms in the middle of the day here anyway.
I know. It's kind of there's a sunshine and there's a rain and sunshine again, and hopefully, yeah, the spring will come and we'll be let out of our apartments to
Yes.
venture out there. You ventured into media for most of your life. You spent in places like Herald Sun, Sunday Observer, the Southern Cross, your own PR, to Ticker TV. Most of your time spent in media. Have you seen much changes of how, principles of how media operates, or is it just more channels and more,
I I think it's more channels. I mean, obviously, when I started on working on local newspapers back when I was 18, everything was done on bromides and people were using scalpels to cut out words and things like that. So obviously that has changed. But I don't think that the principles of journalism have changed at all. And I don't think, well, I was going to say I don't think the media has changed, but I did watch the Roger Ailes thing and some of those other ones on TV, and I know that there are media outlets now that have their own agenda. So the whole idea of independence is left to only a few media outlets. I think complete independence. I think but in terms of doing publicity, I don't think it's changed really that much. It's all about reaching out and coming up with a good story and a way to help other people or inform people with your content. So I don't think that's changed yet at all.
Yeah, so it's the principles are the same.
Yeah.
Tell a good story.
And I think the biggest thing, certainly from my experience, has been that because I'm working, I teach people who aren't professionals how to do it, and my biggest tip for everyone is not to be too commercial. Most people think if it's about their business, they should go out and tell everyone about their business, the processes, and all the rest of it. And it is of no interest to the media or to the readers. They all just want to know how it will affect them and what it will do for them. So that is something that I think people don't necessarily think of at first, because it's very counterintuitive to not put your business at the top of an article if you're writing about your business. But otherwise, I think it's a great opportunity for people.
I'm not going to talk about the fake news. That's the kind of not a new phenomena, but it's been around for a while. It's just kind of amplified. So we're going to skip that bit.
Yeah. Right.
What made you start your own business?
Having a baby, and I would say I'm one of gazillions, if not millions, of women that have done it for that reason. So that was back in 2001. I fell into PR. I picked up a client before I'd ever done it, and I just basically blagged my way through because I needed the money. And then I discovered I loved it. For She's the Boss, that sprang out of being invited to host a show on Ticker TV about women in business, and then kind of suddenly had this moment last year in 2020 where I went, hang on, you never see women in business on television, or very rarely. And why can't we see more of them? And I guess that sent me on a mission of, okay, I'm going to interview female founders. I'm going to interview women in business about what they're doing and why. And then from that, I've just kind of kept going. So I almost feel like Handle Your Own PR is something that I thought of as a great idea and went out and implemented, but that's been a 12-year journey. She's the Boss has been 12 months. I feel like I'm channeling something from up above, really, like it just is all kind of coming together without me having to make a lot of effort.
Yes. you love to give a lot. It seems you love to sort of educate and
Yes.
mentor in your late years, and that's a great thing. That's amazing that you've reached that stage that you have enough for yourself that you can give to others.
Yes.
Why do you love helping other women make a difference
Look,
against all odds?
I love helping women. I actually, with Handle Your Own PR, love helping men as well. But generally, I think it's better than money, really. The feeling that you get when you help someone and you can see that you've made a real difference to their business is very empowering and uplifting. So it keeps you going. So I guess that's why I do it. It's not really for any monetary value. And believe me, I ain't making any money out of it. So it's just about being able to help people and know it. For me, with PR particularly, it's been because I realized that it's a free way of marketing. It's incredibly powerful and it's not hard to do. So that was that one. With She's the Boss, it's been because I work with a lot of women. I love a lot of women. A lot of women are lacking in confidence, and really all they need is someone to tell them they're amazing, and it's enough to tip them over and get them to keep going.
Hmm. Hmm. Fantastic. Well, you're doing a great job, and we definitely need to have more people like you helping women stand up and run their businesses and be out there and be supported. So thank you again. You are interested, one of your interests is about hearing people making it happen in their businesses. Is that more from a business sort of side and commercial things, or are you interested in stories of how they made it personally, sort of?
Yeah, I've taken a very different tack. I think that there are stacks and stacks of opportunities to find out someone's expertise. I mean, even for myself, I'm constantly being asked to come and talk about 5 tips for how to do PR and whatever. What nobody ever seems to ask is, how did you get to where you've got to? Like when you left school, what did you want to be when you grew up? And how have you ended up where you are now, particularly with successful people? And so I've found that really, really interesting to listen to know that, some wildly successful people dropped out of school or had terrible childhoods or, had something dramatic happen to them in their life and they've kept going. And I find that really, really inspiring. And the other thing is, I just think we need more stories of women. I think there's a lot of stories out there about men and their journeys to running their businesses. I want to hear how women are juggling their lives as well, because for a lot of us, we've got to juggle kids, we've got to juggle a whole lot of other things. And so it's a slightly different journey to a lot of blokes, I guess. And so I really want to sort of support those women and help them get their name out there, get what they're doing out there. And the other thing is, and I did a post on LinkedIn, or I commented about this on LinkedIn, it went off a bit last week, but somebody was talking about purpose-driven businesses. And I said, of the 150 female founders I've now interviewed, I would say 90% of them are purpose-driven. And it's really interesting. So I actually think that a lot of women are very motivated by trying to make big changes in the world, as opposed to solving a problem. They want to kind of, affect change. And I find that fascinating as well. And I guess it's kind of rubbed off on me a bit because now I want to do a bit myself.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting to know. Was speaking to Jamila, which is another judge, and she also helps women, and asked her a sort of similar question: what is that something you might have found working with women that sort of comes up? And it's interesting now that you say that they want to be connected to a purpose, that's something beyond them that they can see themselves in, that sort of can drive them, and it's not just like a fixing.
Yeah, I think for a lot of them, it's about leaving a legacy. When I say to them, what do you want to do? They want to leave a legacy. They want to make a change that will be affected after they're no longer here or no longer working.
That's great. That's very inspiring.
Yeah, I'm very inspired by them anyway.
Yeah. Nice. So what kind of stories, let's kind of go back a little bit to She's the Boss. What kind of stories do you sort of cover there? Is it, as you mentioned, their journeys, or is it particular just around specific businesses, or is it
No.
everything
So
in
my I've got two sides to She's the Boss. One is a podcast, and the podcast is mainly Australian female founders, not all, but mainly. And for them, I very much want to hear about the journey. So I literally say to them, take me back to when you were a little girl in primary school. Did you like school? What kind of a family did you grow up in? Were your parents working? That kind of thing, right the way through the career. And then I like to ask them a few little questions about, I love my iPhone. So I ask them questions about what are their favorite apps and things like that. With the YouTube channel, I am targeting a different type of woman. So I'm targeting a very successful woman. I have interviewed women from Iceland to New York to Dominican Republic to Haiti to Canada, you name it. And for them, I'm looking for, so for instance, if anyone doesn't know about SheEO is an incredible organization that came out of Canada. The idea is to create a $1 billion perpetual fund for funding women-led startups that are going to change the world. So it's a beautiful idea, but I had interviewed, I had spoken to some women here who were activators, and they said, oh, you should interview the head of Australia, which is Julie Trell. Which I did, but at that stage I was like, but I actually want the founder. So I went and interviewed the woman in Canada, Vicky. Yeah. So I'm kind of like that, and I've just interviewed Cindy Gallop, who is started Make Love Not Porn in the US and is an absolute friggin' firecracker. I can't wait for that one to come out. At the beginning, I said to her, now this is how I'm going to introduce you. And she said, stop. And I said, what? And she said, I don't give a fuck how you introduce me. Just say whatever you want. And I went, right, okay. So I've interviewed people like Oprah Winfrey's chief of staff of 11 years and a woman who started an oil company that's the biggest revenue generator in Belize, and women who've been the only woman on an oil rig, and women who've spoken at the UN and at Davos and all sorts of things like that. So they're slightly different. With the very successful women, it's more about their purpose. Why are you doing what you're doing? A little bit about their background, but a lot about why they're doing it and what the light bulb moment was that made them decide to do it. And then for the podcast, it's more, I mean, I've got incredible women in there as well, but some of them are an absolute surprise to me. I mean, there was one woman I interviewed who I thought had a virtual piano academy, and I was kind of like, well, I'm not quite sure why I said I'd interview her. And then it transpired that she had been doing all the soundtracks for people like James Cameron from the Titanic, and a whole lot of other ones. And she'd grown up with a single mum in rural New South Wales and had managed to achieve that. A lovely Vietnamese woman who said, I want to have the biggest digital marketing agency in the world for plastic surgeons. Right. Clever. So, oh, I'm sorry about the dog. Sorry.
What is he saying?
The dog is there because somebody is dropping a parcel at the front door. So apologies for that.
Okay. I was trying to make a joke.
Oh, sorry. He's saying, go away or leave me that. I hope you're leaving a bone in that parcel. Yeah. So anyhow, that's the difference between the two. But ultimately, I love stories and I'm a very nosy woman. And so even I've been doing this all my life. Tell me about you. How did you get there? What did you do? How did it all happen? So to be able to do it on and record it and have people say, whoa, that's made a real difference to me. That's fantastic. And the other thing I want to do is inspire young women to give it a go, to go and try their own business. And I get feedback from women and men now that they are playing my podcast for their children in the car on the way to school or on the way to the supermarket, and that, it's making their children, their daughters want to run their own businesses. And I'm like, tick, boxes ticked then. That's exactly what I want to do.
And how many women have you interviewed so far?
I think I've done about 120 podcasts. I think we've got about 95 of them out. And I got Fabian Datner to interview me for the 100th one. So that one's coming. And boy, oh boy, she didn't want to ask any of the questions I wanted her to ask. So it's an interesting one. And then for the TV shows or the YouTube channel, I think I've done about 55, and I think we've released about 35 of them.
Okay.
So far.
That's good. That's good.
It's not bad. I only started a year ago last week.
Right. That's great.
Yeah, because it came up in my Facebook memories. Here's the first podcast. And I was like, God, it feels like I've been doing it for 5 years.
Only in a year. Yeah, you're pumping them out.
I am. I love it.
Right.
Got to work out a way to monetize it somehow, but I'm absolutely loving it anyway.
Yeah, it's a good conversations. And
Yeah,
it's could
that's right.
come out from good conversations too. You struck me as a person that thrives in challenges, and you, of course, you enjoy stories too. Do you have some interesting challenges you can share with us?
I've got one. Yeah, look, there's been loads. God, I've been running my own businesses pretty much all my life. And so there have been disaster after disaster after success after disaster. But you learn a lot from them. Probably the biggest one for me was I had been running Handle Your Own PR for about 8 years. And I decided to do the crazy thing that I wouldn't recommend anyone does of selling their house in order to invest in their business. So I did that. I invested in the business. I had a website being built that was going to be website number 5 for Handle Your Own PR. And then I met a guy who said to me, "Oh my goodness, I can help you. Every dollar you spend with me, I'll turn it into $10. He said, it's a pity that you've rebuilt this website because I've got another idea." And I said, "What is it?" And he said, "Well, I think people should be able to build their media contact lists and to run a whole campaign as a PR SaaS platform." And I was like, "Whoa, what even is that?" And it sounds amazing. And he said, "Look, don't worry. I reckon it'll cost another 10 grand and I can have it done in 2 months because you're almost there." And I went, "Great." And a year later, we had gone through all the money of my money, the money that I'd earned through Handle Your Own PR, some of his money. And he just said to me, "I'm out." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "I can't work with no budget." And I said, "But that's when you roll up your sleeves and go, okay, let's get into this." And he said, "No, I'm gone." And he'd also taken 40% of the business and said, "No, I'm gone. And let me know when you've got more money and can pay me to do it again." And I was like, "Oh my God." So that was a massive moment for me of what the hell am I going to do? And I know, because this sort of thing has happened to me a few times in my career, that I just freeze. I don't know what to do. So you just end up with, I don't even know whether to do anything. So I might just sit on the sofa today and think about what I'm going to do. And then I met this fantastic guy, Paul Lang, who really sort of started as my business coach, which I'd never had, and ended up being kind of my partner in the business. And he was amazing. And we managed to turn it all around and make it all work and, get a whole lot of clients and things. So, but it was a very hairy moment. I think I'd got down to about $1,200 in the whole world, having no house at that stage and a very old car. And it was like, oh my God, I've got 3 kids. I'm a single mum. Like, it was a big moment for me, but I managed to pull myself out of it. And out of that, I have a very high tolerance for risk these days. It's probably the best way of putting it.
Thrill.
Scarily for some people, but yeah, I'll go all in.
Yeah, it's a big challenge for people to even leave their comfortable jobs, let
Yeah.
alone to sell their house and invest in something. But you have to have that sort of drive, have to be comfortable without being comfortable, and just believe in yourself that you can.
I think if you really believe that what your business is doing is for the better of everyone and that it will work, then you keep going. And I mean, I've kept going with Handle Your Own PR for 10 or 11 years now, with all the time people saying to me, "Just stop it, just give it up. If it hasn't worked yet, it might not work." And it's like, I know it will work. So, I'm not a giver upper of anything, really.
It's good. You can't.
No, jumping in with both feet.
Yeah. Well, that's an incredible story, and congratulations. I could imagine it would have been terrifying at the time.
Oof. But yep, you get through it and you learn a lot from it, and you learn to realize that, along with the downs come the ups, I guess. And that if you're in a trough, in fact, the best thing anyone ever told me was Wendy Hargreaves, who's a fabulous journalist. And it was last year in the pandemic when we were all spiraling and everyone was wondering what they were going to do. And I remember saying to her, "God, so many people are really feeling like they've hit rock bottom." And she said, "It's only when you hit rock bottom that you can push up." And I just thought of that I mean, I love swimming. So it really made sense to me that you can't, if you jump into a swimming pool, you can't push up until you've hit the bottom. And that just kind of, I don't know, it was just a really great moment for me, and it made a lot of sense.
Makes you feel better.
Yeah, which you need at that
There is
stage.
something to offer.
So true.
Yeah, there is one award, and maybe because we had these kind of conversations, one category that you like the most, unexpected twist
Yes.
award, for making sudden changes in your business, pivoting and moving forward. Is that why you picked it?
Yes, I think so. I love seeing people do that. I love seeing someone not give up and just take a different direction. And, in the times that we're at now, here we are in 2021 thinking we'd all be out after last year's disaster, and it's exactly the same. I think it's even more important and it's even more exciting to see what people are doing at times when a lot of people are in despair. But to me, this time is a great time for innovation, and it is innovation that will lead us out of this. So I love hearing those stories, and I can't wait to be able to judge and hear the stories of what people have done to twist and turn, pivot. But it is such an annoying word, pivot.
I know we heard it a lot.
We did.
Pivot.
Agile. I think agile was the one before that, and now I don't know what it is, but yeah.
Well, look, this has been a really interesting conversation with you, and I have one more question, and I'm not sure whether I should twist it now since we had the conversation, or my initial thought was to ask you, give me a few tips on how to handle best personal PR, but maybe business, or maybe now something else. Just give me a few tips about something in life.
That is about the loosest question I've ever had. Let me give you some tips about PR first.
Yeah.
With PR, and so there's a couple of things I want to say. One is, right now is the absolutely perfect time to be doing PR for two reasons. One is because of the lockdown, a lot of big businesses pull back on their publicity. They get very nervous about what their messaging should be. And so, and the PR agencies close their doors. So therefore, the media isn't getting as much content as it normally does. And then if you add to that the fact that more people are online, more people are reading and consuming news and media than ever before in a lockdown, you're in the perfect position to be able to build your profile so that coming out of this, you will be one of the companies, or you will be one of the advisors that's top of mind for people. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is, like I've just done, you've got to really show some vulnerability. You want to talk about your mistakes and what you've learned from them, because the media loves a struggle to success story from an entrepreneur, absolutely loves it. Male or female, doesn't really matter. If you've had something dramatic that's happened in your life that's made you go out on your own, or change or pivot your business, that's the sort of thing the media absolutely loves to hear about. And also, I think in this age of digital, blah, 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 all the rest of it that we've got going on, I think it's really important that you start to build a profile for yourself as well as your business. So 10 years ago, if you'd asked me, I would have said, focus on your business, get it out there. From that, it will grow. And then my brother, Chris Jeffers, who you know, said to me at one stage, I said, I don't know what to do. Should I be building Handle Your Own PR? Should I be building Jules, Brooke? What should I be doing? And he said, you've got to do both, because then if you sell one, the other one is at a level that other opportunities will come, and you'll be able to grow something else. So I would really encourage people, even if you're shy, it doesn't matter. Just get some of your thought leadership stuff out there, get your own story out there, and start to build a bit of profile, so that should you decide you don't want to do that business anymore, or should you be looking for investors or whatever else you might be looking for, you've got a bit of profile and you've built a bit of credibility out there.
Yeah, it's a good it's a good advice.
It's hard for a lot of people, and they go, but I don't want to talk about myself. And the way around that is to take that great information in your head and put it down on paper and help people. And if you do that, you'll find the media will love it as well.
Yeah, people often don't know what's the voice.
That's right.
How
That's
to
right.
pick the voice, how they should be sounding out there. what can they help others with, and why?
Well, I know, because nobody thinks they're an expert. I have that many people that I work with, and they go, and I'll just give you a couple of small examples, and they're probably not right because they're not particularly technology. But there was a woman who had a garlic farm, and she said to me, "What can I do?" And I said, "Why don't you do tips for all the foodie media in the best kind of garlic to pick, or how to tell it's fresh, or how to store it? You know, there's a whole lot of things that we don't know about garlic." Same thing. There was a guy who was a window washer, and I was doing an event. And he said, "You said anyone can come up with an angle. I'm a window washer. How can I come up with something?" And I was like,
perfect angle.
yeah, well, I was thinking, well, we don't all know the best products to use on our windows, what type of year we should be doing it, whether it's good to get that stuff that, you know, doesn't mark the window but put some sheen on it. There's a million and one things. And, you know, how often you should be washing your windows. I don't know. There's a whole lot of stuff that we don't know about, all sorts of things. There was a guy who had a bedding store, and we put out tips about the best kind of beds to sleep on, depending on which way you sleep. You know, we are all experts at what we do. We know little nichey bits. And the best way to think about it is, if you go out to a barbecue or a party and someone says, "What do you do?" and you tell them, what are the questions they ask you? Because that's what everyone wants to know.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of things that we know, but think that others might not be.
That's right.
And people just don't know everything.
No, that's right. And the other thing is that journalists are told to write, particularly newspaper journalists are told to write as if they're talking to a 9-year-old. So don't overcomplicate it. Don't put loads of jargon unless it's an industry media. Just make it very simple and explain it as if you're explaining it to a child.
Yeah, fantastic. We could maybe end on that.
Yeah, sure.
And have the great rest of the day. It seems the sun is out, and
that's right. Make the most of it for the hour that we've got sunshine before. I think we're due for hail and thunderstorms later.
So for the next hour, go full on. Thank you, Jules.
My pleasure.
Of it, and it'd be nice chatting to you. I look forward to working with you on this year's Pause Awards.
Yes, me too.
Thank you.